Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been probably about 3 months since I've made a video, but I was out of town for a couple months, and then as soon as I got back, probably mid-December, I had to drop the car off, head up to Ohio, drop the car off at On3 Performance to get fitted for their soon-to-be released Coyote Swap Fox Turbo. It's a single turbo kit. So as you can see behind me, I've got the car back, so now it's time to get working on it, doing the mini tubs, coilovers, nearing the rear end, and so on and so forth. Actually, I've got a funny story for you about that real quick. So the other day I was mocking up the coilover bar that goes from frame rail to frame rail. I'd kind of tapped it in place and took my hands off of it, and when I actually looked over and went over to grab the light that I had and the clamps that I had, it fell off and hit me right in the face and gave me a black eye. Nice. So figured that'd be a funny story, and I'll tell you whether it's good or whether it's bad. But anyways, I'll kind of talk about what I know about the Coyote Swap Fox Turbo Kit from On3. So I know it's going to be compatible with AC. I know the guy that was fabbing the kit said that you should be able to not have to jack the motor up. The headers will go on, and all you guys that have done a Coyote Swap Fox know the passenger side headers are a pain in the ass. For me to get mine on, I had to lift the motor up or put the motor down in there with it on. So they should be able to be bolted on with the motor in the car. I haven't seen the kit, but that's what I was told. But for all you guys, it will be compatible with AC. It was built around this car with a UPR K-member and UPR solid motor mounts, 4.6 ones. You can go back through my other videos and see what stuff that I have on this car, but that's what it was built around, and it should be released soon. I don't have a release date, so I can't answer those questions. But anyway, so what we're gonna actually do now is show you, and I'm gonna install the Team Z coilover kit for 87 to 93. So let's get started. All right, guys. So now that you can see, I'm under the car. Sorry, there's not a lot of light under here, but just to show you, I've already installed the coilover bar from Team Z. I've already welded it frame rail to frame rail, so I'll kind of show you what I did. So I put it up in place before it dropped the first time and hit me in the eye. I put it up in place, clamped it in, and then took a measuring tape and measured from this bulkhead out to both sides. So this side, I got right at 13 3/16. And then I went to the other side, and I kept tapping it in and moving it around until it equaled that on both sides. And then I put a level on it and leveled it out, held it in, and then I welded it on both sides. You can kind of see the welds. Don't mind this bar. There used to be somebody that had it before welded a bar from frame rail to frame rail. A fuel pump used to sit here. But anyways, that's how I did that and welded it in. And now I'm going to show you how I'm going to put the coilover brackets onto the actual housing itself. All right, so I've already got the coilover bracket and everything kind of in place, and I'll tell you what I did to kind of get to this point. So I got a piece of 1" by 1" square tubing, and I measured basically how tall my strange coilovers were, and I drilled holes in it and mounted it obviously the top to the coilover bar that you just saw that I installed, and the bottom down here. And then I put this bracket onto the rear end. So I already cleaned the rear end up so it could be welded on, but basically what I'm doing right now is setting this bar and this bar to make sure they're straight. So the car is already set up. I've already put this, took the rear end cover off and put this pinion angle gauge on it. So I know the rear end is already centered in the car from before, and I know that it is basically 2 degrees down. So what I have to do is basically, once I make sure that these are straight, I scribe the rear end around where this bracket is on both sides. So what I'm going to have to do now is that I know both of these are straight and I scribe the rear end. I will have to pull this off And now, just because I want to make sure, pull this off and actually be able to set my pinion angle gauge on the back of this to make sure when I weld these brackets in that it is at the same 2 degrees down that the rear end is. So what I'll have to do basically, like I said, pull this stuff off, put that on there, set it within my scribe marks that I already did to make sure that I'm straight and level, obviously still putting a level on it, and put the pinion angle gauge on the back of it and tap it back and forth, whatever it is, until I get to that, while also making sure it's level, and then I'll go ahead and weld it on. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'll get to that point and we'll go from there. All right, so now that I got that bar and the rest of that bracket off, I've got it mocked up in place right between my scribe marks, and as you can see, I've got these magnets holding it in place. It is completely level like it was when I had the bar on it, and now I'm just checking my gauge again, and I'm at 2 right there. And I'm at the same thing right there. So it's level and it's at the same angle as the rear end is. So it stays in place. I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple tacks in and hold it in place. So, all right, so as you can see now, I've got the bracket welded on. It is completely level, and it is still at the 2 degrees down like the rear end was. So everything's good to go on that. So I spared you guys the welding. Obviously you've seen somebody weld before. There's plenty YouTube videos of it. But the one thing I will say, I don't know if this will warp the tubes or not, but I basically started up here and did about 1 inch, and then came down here and did another one, and then just kept swapping back and forth, taking little breaks, so it wouldn't warp the tubes. Like I said again, I don't know if it would, but it's probably easier to do with the rear end out of the car. The rear end will come out of this car because I got to shorten it, all that good stuff. But I wanted to do it while it's in the car for potentially some of you guys that will do this and not pull the rear end out and shorten it and do everything I'm doing to it. But as you can see, if you can see the welds, they're not bad. So now it's time to do the same process on the other side. All right, so I transferred that same bar and that same stuff over to the other side, and I've got it leveled just like I did on the other side, and I've got it measured where it equals the same thing, same distance on the other side, and I've got it leveled. So I've already cleaned it off and made my scribe marks like I did on the other one. So now I'll go ahead and take this assembly off, get it mocked up again, and get it ready to weld. All right, so I've got the other bracket in place. I have measured, and it is the same distance that the bracket I welded in from where the actual axle tubes meet the center section. It's the exact same measurement as the other side, so I know I've got the spacing right. It is level, it is within my scribe marks, and it is at the same 2 degrees down that the other one was. So it is ready to weld in, so I'm gonna go ahead and get it tacked in. All right, guys, and if there's any gals watching, so I've got my other side welded on. I did it the same exact way as you guys saw. I've got my level right here, and it's perfectly level, and I already put my gauge on it to make sure it was at the same degree the housing is and the other bar is, and the distance is the exact same on both. So this was my way to do it. It may not be the best way, but again, it was my way to do it. I like the Team Z stuff. It was a pretty straightforward, easy install, and there's more of Team Z stuff to come. So I'm about to do a mini tub, narrow the rear end, put 9-inch ends on it. I'm going to cut the torque boxes, the upper and the lower torque boxes out, and weld in that Team Z upper adjustable basically box, and then same thing with the lowers. I'm going to put that that really adjustable lower torque box kit they have. So anyways, if you like what you see,
please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because there's plenty more to come with this car. And let me know in the comments if you want to see something different. Thanks again.